Can you continue telling us about the culture change and how it was coming to Hawaii from California?
Tell us a story about feeling like you're haole.
Okay, I can remember it distinctly. I used to play a lot of tennis, and I joined a tennis team, and it's all local, so local guys, and I'm pretty easygoing guy, so I kind of figured I think it took me a week before I was eating sashimi and poke and started to occasionally little hint of pigeon in my talk, but I was out actually at a tennis tournament. And I was sitting on the side of the courts, and all the players are out there playing. And there was one other haole actually playing in the tournament. And he was a real hothead. So he missed a couple of shots. He started screaming and yelling and throwing his racket. And I started thinking, I never saw any of the local players do that. And obviously there's going to be some guys that do that. But on that day, at that time, I sat there and I thought, well, that stupid haole. He's over there making hay. He's making all this racket and making noise. And he's... he's being a haole. So that's when I really realized, hey, it's not really what you look like or, where you come from. It's really how you act. And I like the local style better.
So what do you think was the most difficult adjustment then coming from LA to here, business-wise?
It actually, from a business standpoint, I think it was actually very easy because I actually love doing business here because you're doing business with people that you can kind of pick who you want to do business with. And there are very few people in town who I've met who I wouldn't want to do business with. And in those rare occasions when you do business with somebody that you discover that didn't go so well, you can, you just move on and that's that. And you can kind of, sometimes here you find out ahead of time who those people are. On the mainland, it's a bigger pond and you don't run into the same people and the business networks are much bigger and much broader. So I actually like this, like I said, it's got the attributes of a big city, but it's in a small town environment. You can go down and you can talk about big banks versus small banks. No offense to the banks that might be listening, but they're all relatively small banks. And they're all really good to work with, all the bankers. Even who's our sponsor, CPB. Mm-hmm. Fiercely loyal.
Well, there should be some extra on that one, huh? So what do you think, though? I mean, there's people that come from the mainland, they try to do business here, and they almost get run out of town. What's the difference between, you coming in here and acclimating and fitting in so well and other people that just can't seem to get it?
Well, I moved here, and I think if we think back to how I ended up here, it was the decision by the firm that I was working with to actually locate an office. So they were competing to get jobs and clients with firms who actually had local offices and people that were hired locally, that went to UH, that went to high school here. And here we were handling jobs from the mainland, sending people in and they're staying in the hotels and then we went away. So we really weren't part of the community. We were just here kind of on borrowed time trying to do work. So I think the difference for us and why we're successful in the business community here is we want to be in Hawaii and we really care about Hawaii. We talked about actually a few years ago, the economy was a little bit soft and we had just finished doing a bunch of the Kmart developments, and we were kind of sitting around wondering what we were going to do next. And it was Duncan and Eric Thiem and myself, and we sat down with a bottle of wine, and we had some poo-poos, and we started talking about what we wanted to do over the next few years. And we made a conscious decision not to go to the mainland to work on jobs. We decided that we wanted to stay and work in Hawaii and do a variety of different things rather than try to take our show on the road and go to the mainland.
I know that you do a lot of community-related work also. What's your view on business and then businesses that support the community?
Well, I think anybody who runs a good business should understand the absolute necessity to give back to the community. And it's one of those things about a rising tide raises all ships. I think if a business is successful, it's kind of a self-imposed social safety net. If we're out there being successful, we've got to give back to the community who's helped make us successful. And if you see a need out there, you got to step in and help solve it. And you can't be so self-serving that you're only looking out for providing for your own good. I think you need to help out the others. And it's interesting. In the summers I used to work at my grandfather's lumber yard, and so I worked with all these lumber clerks, and they're kind of all interesting guys with very colorful language. And there was this one guy that was really quiet, and he actually had a very religious, as it turned out. And I remember he said something to me, and it stuck with me. He said, if all of us really focused on helping everybody else, we wouldn't have to worry so much about helping just ourselves because other people will be helping to take care of us. And so it's one of those things when, I was in high school and working in this lumberyard, I'm thinking, what the heck does that mean? But I get it. It's we all got to help each other. So I think that there really needs to be strong support from the business community back into our general community. I don't know how to say that any better, but anybody out there listening really has to understand that.
It's kind of like the aloha spirit then.
Yeah.
Have you felt that?
It's the aloha spirit, but I think it's, you run your business with the aloha spirit, you treat your employees with respect, you treat your partners with respect, and you treat everybody in the community with respect. And I think that's definitely the aloha spirit. I think the aloha spirit might go a little bit beyond just the relationship between business and the general community. But yeah, absolutely. It's an example of the aloha spirit.
So you're involved with the Gift Foundation?
Yes, I am.
We've been hearing a lot about the Gift Foundation on our show. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role and a little bit more about the foundation? Sure.
Yeah, the Gift Foundation is really awesome. And it actually is an example of how, young entrepreneurial business-minded people take time out and say, what can we do for the community? And my background with that is actually I was approached. It's kind of funny. I was actually approached by my good friend and our partner in some of our projects, BJ Kobayashi. And BJ comes to me and he says, Jeff, this friend of mine and I are thinking about creating this organization to do some fundraising and kind of support the community. We want it all to be younger people, but we want kind of an older mentor. So can you join the group to kind of be that older mentor? I don't think he really said it exactly that way, but that's exactly how I took it. And so I said, well, okay. We talked about it and said, that sounds like fun. That sounds like it's really going to be rewarding and certainly serve a good cause. And so he said, well, who else should we invite on? And we kind of went through who we were thinking about. And my only goal was to get somebody older than me on that board so I wouldn't be the old mentor. So we did. I went out and I said, I want to add so-and-so. And I'm not going to say who it is, but he's older than me, so I'm not the oldest guy on the board. So when you folks were making that list, did you have a list distinguished between the young and the old? No, I don't think he really knew how old I was, actually. But it's a good, the whole purpose of it, and you've probably heard it already on the show, is it's actually kind of it's a double-pronged approach. The goal was to go out and create events and do something where we could invite an audience to us of our peers, the younger business leaders, despite my being on the older side of this group, but the younger, maybe the 25 to 35-year-olds. And they're the up-and-comers in the community, and instill in them early on a sense of philanthropy and a sense that they need to really give back to the community. So they're off on their career, and they're working a lot of hours, and it's just, get them in front of you and say, hey, don't forget when you're successful that you got to give back, and maybe even before you're successful. Start on it now. Start thinking about it. So the Gift Foundation, in its infancy, we tried to figure out how we could best do that. And then what we came up with was the annual Gift Foundation party, which we kind of call Halloween Gone Wild because it turns into just a wild Halloween party. So, and what we do then is we raise money through this. We invite that peer group, the 25 to 35, and it gets crashed by some older people like myself. And it's just a heck of a good time. And we raise money at that event through an auction, through sponsorship, and through ticket sales. And the proceeds then go to a local beneficiary. And that beneficiary changes from year to year.
Gift Foundation didn't always have such an easy start. What were some of the struggles that you guys initially had, and how'd you get through that?
Well, the biggest struggle was trying to figure out what exactly it was we wanted to do. So kind of really nailing down what our objective was. And then the next struggle was really how we were going to do that. So we actually had a number of meetings with a whiteboard, and we started coming up with just brainstorming, just throwing different ideas against I call it the spitball theory. You start spitting, spit wads at the wall and see what sticks up there. And then, so what we started doing is just throwing this stuff up against the board and coming up with some really creative ideas. And one of our mottos early on was we did not want to be our parents' fundraiser. So we talked about stuff, somebody else already does that, or somebody does something similar to that. We wanted something absolutely new and unique.
What about a success story?
Oh, well, I got to say that the first party that we threw off, it was at the Pacific Club. We called it College Days and College Connections, a local charity organization that helps kids prepare for college and actually motivate them to go to perhaps a better college or go to college if they weren't thinking about college. And we pulled off this event at the last minute, and it was kind of a struggle putting it together, but the thing went off so well, and it was so much fun, and we basically raised double what we thought we were going to raise. And so I think one of the greatest successes, it was financially successful, but more importantly, it was just really fun. So we knew that we were onto something. And one of the struggles from that was, what are we going to do with all the extra money? So what was neat was we gave a little bit more than we told them. We told them what we thought we were going to be able to give them with no promises. We actually gave them a little bit more, and then we took a little bit of the extra proceeds and we went and we actually gifted it to some of the organizations that we'd interviewed who were not the selected beneficiary. So in the true sense of a gift, these people weren't expecting anything, and we went back to them and we gave them, a little extra help to I think there was a group that needed air conditioning for a halfway home for some women, and so we helped them get air conditioning. It was really neat.
That's amazing. Thanks for joining us today on Greater Good Radio. For more information or a transcript of today's show, please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. This is your host, Evan Leong and Carrie Leong, saying please join us next time for another episode of Greater Good Radio, Hawaii.